for his Torah. Immediately he got up and he told this Avrech, listen to me. Go and sell your house as it is. Sell your house without changing anything. Take that money from the house. There's a place called Bet Shemesh that the state is trying to build. There's almost nothing there. Go and buy 2 houses over there. One big house to live in and one small house. The small house you turn it into a little synagogue.
בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, חודש טוב, שבוע טוב, we're back here, Baruch Hashem. To start off the week, to start off the month with a new shiur as a continuation of our series, Torat HaChassidut, based on the teachings of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhenk on his Tzetel Katan that has certainly shaped our lives over these last several months that we've been learning his Torah, Baruch Hashem. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Atzlacha Rabbah and Refuah Shlema for Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahites that continue to support our organization, especially those that are giving maaser, that are helping us with a significant amount of their emunah as well as their resources to help us continue doing all the amazing things that the company, organization is doing, Baruch Hashem. And Team HaShem has, Baruch Hashem, put another win on the charts with the new film, Or HaGanuz, that was released last night, Motzei Shabbat, which, if you simply see the feedback that we're getting from there, aside from the comments you see under the film, the emails, the text messages, literally people are just besides themselves, just amazed at the film, amazed at the amazing work that the team has put together, Baruch Hashem. And Baruch Hashem, we're hoping that each and every single one of you not only watch it, but share it with at least 10 friends. Share it with at least 10 people to get them to watch it, because it certainly will inspire them. It certainly will awaken them. I even had one of the Jewish podcasters reach out to me and ask me a few questions. Unfortunately, he didn't take the advice yet, but I'm hoping that he will at some point. BeEzrat HaShem. But there's a section in there for everyone. Very similar to many of our lectures. You're always going to find yourself in the lectures, but this particular film is really waking up a lot of people. And of course, you're going to see 1 or 2 haters that don't even actually watch the film, but simply conclude that they already know what the conclusion is and the purpose is. And if they only arrived at the end of the film, they would actually have a very different opinion. So watch the film, share it with at least 10 people on a regular basis each week. If you're on social media already, at least make use of it by sharing this film to wake up as many people as possible. Of course, you have WhatsApp, you have TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is that you have, share it in every single way you possibly can, because it certainly will help you. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, the movie is out, and BeEzrat Hashem, it'll reach countless people each and every single day to get as many people as possible to do tshuva, to wake up, to do BeEzrat Hashem everything necessary to fix the mistakes that we are making. Also, as a update, anyone that orders a subscription or gets a subscription on our new AI Rabbi app will get a one of these cool cups for free. These, I think they're called tumblers, and they keep your tea or your coffee warm for a couple of hours. I've told you guys how much I like this cup, I think, a million times, but I can't emphasize it enough. But if you sign up and you subscribe, and you'll get one of these things for free, BeEzrat Hashem. This is for our new AI Rabbi, which honestly, the feedback we're getting from there, people should, are asking me if they could pay a premium. Some people have actually even donated money because they like it so much. So the AI Rabbi is available. AI Rabbi is solving some problems for people, giving them some answers, Baruch Hashem, at all hours of the night. It's working well. Anytime we've had issues, whether it's not working on a specific phone or registration issues or whatever, usually we're able to fix those problems within 24 hours or less, Baruch Hashem. So we've been able to do quite a bit of good with the app so far, and we're hoping that many more of you will sign up. Last but not least, the Kiruv store. As a reminder, anyone that orders books to distribute in their community for free will also get one of these boxes of Asher Yitzhar posters to distribute in your community for free as well. There's 100 in each box. They're two-sided, so one side is Ashkenazi, the other side is the Sephardi Nusach. So, with that being said, we're going to get started. We're going to get started, but really, this start is a continuation of what we learned last week in Torah HaChassidut, where Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhenk, in his Tzetel Katan, he taught us how much we need to minimize our mundane conversations. In so many words, waste of time talking about nothing, talking about politics, talking about all types of things that really you could live without. You don't really need to. And he actually emphasized how much a person needs to stay away from that. Tonight, the Tzetel Katan, along with the help of some of the sages of the Gemara, as well as some amazing stories that I know all of you are going to love, are going to help us actually have a strategy of how to do this. But not only a strategy, even an additional motivation of why to do this. And in fact, even specific target times of when exactly to do this, when to minimize your conversation, because sometimes mundane talk is actually necessary. As Rabbi Nachman of Breslev advised his Hasidim, that there are times that you have to speak about absolutely nonsensical topics, meaningless topics, with different people, just in order to finally get that spot where you could give them some divrei Torah and do kiruv with them. And this is a strategy that Chachmei Israel have used in order to get to the hearts of people. Sometimes you have to speak their language. As we all know from the famous story of what's called the disco rabbi, who built a enormous community, Baruch HaShem, and just as a result of him sacrificing his time, his neshama, in order to get Am Yisrael to do tshuva, even in the worst of worst places, which still, unfortunately, were not as bad as the ones of today. I don't think he would do the same thing today as he did back then. But nonetheless, we see that Arav Grossman, Shichye, took major risk, doing things that were unorthodox, speaking to Am Yisrael in their language, in their way, just in order to find an opening to finally get them to hear divrei Torah and do tshuva. So we see that there are times that mundane talk is not only allowed, but it's actually necessary. So at the same token, Rabbi Elimelech told us that we have to run away from mundane talk. So that means that we have to learn when is the time to not, and when is the time to do it. Now this certainly sounds trivial, and it is. It may even sound antisocial. It's not. But tonight we're going to find out the greatness that a person can achieve with these words by being selective with their speech, and in fact, with the lack of their speech. So Rabbi Elimelech brings us on this journey where we're learning how important it is to train ourselves not to speak to anyone mundane nonsense. And even then, when you have to speak, you should keep it to a minimum, weighing your words carefully, and ensuring that you don't contain any trace of falsehood, flattery, gossip, tale-bearing, belittlement of others, or self-aggrandizement, God forbid. Up to here is what we did and learned last week. This week, we learn to train yourself to follow the sage's principle of teach your tongue to say, I don't know. ירגיל עצמו בכלל שאמרו חכמינו זיכרונם לברכה, למוד לשונך לומר, איני יודע. איני יודע. So before we get into it, the Gemara also says sometimes it's good to start off a shiur with a joke. It opens up the hearts of people and also the minds. And since this joke is a scholarly joke, there's always room for it. And since I remember it, it's even more so. And since it has connection to our this week's parasha, as it always does, it even more so. In this week's parasha, Parashat Vayetze,
Yaakov Avinu leaves the yeshiva of Shem and Evel on the way to Lavan's house, Lavan Arami, that he will later find out will literally try to destroy him and all of Am Yisrael, as we read from the Agadat Pesach. He falls asleep at the place, a holy place, and he wakes up from a dream. And he's scared because he realizes that Hashem, the Shekhinah of Hashem, is there. And it says, V'yikatz Yaakov mishtato v'yomer, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. Yaakov awoke from his sleep and said, surely Hashem is present in this place, and I did not know. That's where the teachings of I didn't know comes from. Where the sages say that a person should teach themselves how to say I don't know. But as a side note, there's a joke, but certainly some musar from it. There was once an evil priest that had a lot of control over the government that said that he wants to pass a decree to hurt the Jewish people. And unless they could defeat him in a debate, where the first one in a debate that says, I don't know, not only loses, but gets thrown off a bridge. Now all the sages, Chachamim of the time, were debating who should go. Some average Jew, not exactly known for his wisdom, if quite frankly the opposite, he was known as a fool, comes in and he says to the Chachamim, listen, let me go and debate this priest. I'll go to the bridge. You? Yeah, listen. Best case scenario, I win. Worst case scenario, if I lose, they throw me off a bridge and you guys don't have to worry about anything, because if they come to you and say, listen, you're going to get punished now, say, no, we didn't send such a fool, it's not our fault. And this, by the way, is something that the Chachamim Yisrael, that Am Yisrael has done several times over the years, and it's mentioned in the Gemara. So anyway, they say, go ahead, go for it. He goes to the bridge. Of course, the priest is with his people. Everyone's excited to defeat another Jew, and they see this lowly Jew. He says, okay, priest, I'm ready for this debate, but since you are so honorable and so majestic and so respected and so much more knowledgeable than I am, I think that it's fair that I get the first question. And the priest, of course, with his arrogance says, sure, go ahead. What can you possibly ask me? He says, well, can you please give me the meaning of the verse where the Torah says, Vayikatz Yaakov mishnato, Vayomer acher Adonai b'makom hazeh, V'anochi lo yadati. What does it mean, V'anochi lo yadati? And the priest says, I don't know. Quickly, his foolish people that were supposed to guard him take him and throw him off the bridge. Now, of course, that's actually what the verse means. Anochi lo yadati means I don't know, but they didn't know that. But the clever, foolish, average Jew, I should say, wins the contest, is celebrated, comes back to the Jews, and they all ask him, listen, amazing, great job, how did you do it? How did you know that he's going to fall for the trick? He goes, what trick? What are you talking about? How did you know you're going to defeat him that way? He goes, what do you mean? For 20 years, I've been coming to synagogue, and we get to this parasha, and I look at the parasha, and I see the translation, and over there in the translation, it says, it says, I don't know. So I asked the religious guy next to me, what does this mean? And he says, I don't know. And I asked the guy next to me, what does this mean? I don't know. So then I went to the rabbi, asked him, what about this one? I don't know. Nobody knows. So I went to a different synagogue and I asked them and they kept saying, I don't know. I asked big rabbis that were visiting. For 20 years I've been asking rabbis and different religious people, what does this mean? And they kept telling me, I don't know. So I figured if these big rabbis and these religious people all don't know, then surely this priest doesn't know either. So a little humor at the expense of the enemies. But nonetheless, this is actually something that the Gemara brings. Several times that similar things happened throughout Jewish history in order for Am Yisrael to save itself. But the truth be told is that Rabbeinu, the Rabbi Elimelech Lezhenk, is telling us that this is actually something that a person needs to train themselves. Train yourself to say, I don't know. Now, why would somebody want to train themselves to say, I don't know? I mean, this, quite frankly, seems like it's the opposite of the MO today. It's the opposite of the way people behave. In fact, he says, train yourself to follow the sage's principle, to teach your tongue to say, I don't know. And with people who are careless in this specific teaching of I don't know, speak to you about frivolous matters, you should use any means possible to avoid conversation. And if you cannot, you should offer the briefest answers possible, no more than absolutely necessary. So obviously here, without us understanding what is this teaching of I don't know, we're going to be dumbfounded. We're going to be at a place where we have no idea where to go. So of course we have to find, what does it mean to say I don't know? And why is it great? The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 4a. This you will also find in Masechet Derech Eretz. In Zuta chapter 31. And the Gemara talks about when is midnight. And it says, who knew exactly when midnight is? It says, David HaMelech knew what midnight was because David HaMelech woke up at midnight each day to pray to HaShem. And he had even a special musical instrument, a harp, that would automatically, by itself, he positioned it in such a way that the air would go through it and it would make music in the middle of the night to wake him up. He said, what, David HaMelech knew when midnight is and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know? He said, why do you think Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know? Because when Paro told him about the plagues to stop it, when is it going to be? Is it going to be at a certain time? And Moshe Rabbeinu pretended like he doesn't know the exact time. It's going to be around midnight. Meaning Moshe Rabbeinu made it seem as if he didn't know when midnight was. So the sages say, no. Moshe Rabbeinu did know exactly when midnight is. It's just that Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching us that you have to teach your tongue to say, I don't know, lest you be caught in falsehood. Meaning that sometimes it's better to profess ignorance in order to give information instead of giving information that could be considered false or could make you lose your credibility. Where since Moshe Rabbeinu did not exactly know when HaShem is going to do what he wanted to do, he can't demand something from HaShem. So he said it's going to be around the midnight. Because if it's a minute before, a minute after, then Paro and his necromancer can say, you didn't know, look, maybe it's because of this, maybe it's because of that. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, it's around that time, around midnight. So they don't start saying, no, you were wrong by a minute, you were wrong by this, sort of in obviously a small comparison where, if you notice, almost every film and practically every lecture we've had in the last decade, there's always at least one loser that makes a comment about something that is not material to the entire lecture, but they don't like. Oh, you mentioned it's Rabbi Akiva, but really it's Rabban Gamliel. Oh, you said it's the Mishnah, it's the fourth Mishnah, but really it's the third one. Oh, the music is too loud. Or you this, or the lights, or all types of, there's always going to be somebody that mentions something that has nothing to do with the topic at hand. I mean, there's a 2-3 hour video. That's what you got out of it? There's always something like that. There's always something like that. It's a yetzirah. I don't even fault those people. I'm not even upset at those people. I don't even react to most of them anymore. Just simply because I know it's the yetzirah, but this is something that always happens. Instead of getting the information and applying it to your life, people always find that one thing they don't like. So Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't want Paro to do that. So he pretends like he doesn't know exactly when midnight is. But from here we learn in the Gemara, Masechet Brachot, that it's good to say, I don't know. It's good to say, I don't know. Why? Because if you are like what most people are today, and you act like you know everything, especially young people, then you're preparing yourself for embarrassment, you're preparing yourself for disgrace, and in fact, you're preparing yourself for a problem. Why? Because one of the reasons why anytime we speak about business on this, in our shiurim, it's typically in a very negative connotation, is because I've spent over 30 years doing business with literally thousands and thousands of companies and individuals, and from every way, shape, and size. And I've always told you guys, I've been young and I've been old, and I haven't found a single company, a single individual that actually does what he says. I've paid them. I usually don't even negotiate. But I've yet to find someone that actually does what they say. This is unfortunate reality. One of the reasons why this is the case and why this is the standard in society today is because typically the average person out there, especially in the world of business, says a lot because they're selling. Can you do that? Yeah, of course we can do that. How many you want? He doesn't even know what you're talking about. But he wants to say yes. Why? He wants to make a sale. Well, can you do this too? Of course we can do it. Anything you want, Rabbi. Anything you want. Anything. You can do that too. Yeah, of course we can do it. You sure? Absolutely. He's whispering to his friend. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Don't worry, no, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We can do everything. And what ends up happening in business is that people overpromise. They tell you they can do everything. And in reality, they cannot even do what they promised, the bare minimum. And this obviously leads to a lot of disappointment. But this is not just in business. This is simply in life. People love to say, I know. I know. And that's actually a bad character trait. Especially when people want to tell you a story, a Dvar Torah, and they want to tell you a story, and you already know the story. Or they want to tell you something about the parasha, and you already believe you know what they're about to say. Saying, yeah, I know, is a terrible thing to do. If somebody's about to tell you anything relating to Torah, it's extremely difficult to overcome the negative character trait that is telling you to interrupt them, that is telling you to show them that you're becoming impatient because you already know what they're saying. But in fact, if you're able to overcome that bad character trait, you could reach extraordinary high levels of Kedusha. But it is very difficult to say nothing or to say, I don't know. Especially if somebody comes to you and says, yeah, did you ever hear the story about Rav Ovadia? And you in your mind, you're like, what? Rav Ovadia? I can tell you Rav Ovadia's bio by heart. I can tell you stories that you never even heard of. Now, if you do that, you're hurting the person. If you do that, you're minimizing the person. If you do that, you're never going to reach anything of significance. If somebody tells you, did you ever hear of a story of this Chacham, or this Tzaddik, or this story about the parasha? That's the perfect place where you say, no, I don't know. No, go ahead. I don't know. Never heard it before. Even if you've heard it 50 times, even if you wrote a book about it. There's a time and a place where saying I don't know is perfect. Because if you're one of these people that always says, yeah, I know, Why? The parasha, yeah, of course, the Akedah, and then really, he wasn't going to hurt him, and then he did, and then when the Gan Eden. Yeah, exactly, yeah, just like you said. Oh, yeah, I know that one. Okay, great. Guess what? Not only did you just embarrass the storyteller, on top of that, you demotivated him from telling the story to anybody else, because now he'll assume everybody else knows the story. Number 3, he'll probably not want to study anymore because he'll assume that everything he's learning, everybody already knows. So you're lowering the Torah in the world. And number 4, you're missing out on an opportunity that there may very well be a fact in the story that you actually didn't know that he did. But now that you're telling him that you did know, he assumes you knew everything about the story. So it's a very bad character trait to say, I know. If anyone, comes to you and tells you, I want to tell you something, some divrei Torah, some halacha, some story, some parashat shavua, anything, you have to be welcoming them with open arms and never show any level of impatience. And that is a very, very hard character trait to master, but it's certainly one that's worthy to do so. Because if somebody wants to tell you a Dvar Torah or a Torah story, and you already knew it, it's not enough to just listen. You have to show interest, even if you know the whole story, even if you yourself have told the story. If you show them that you're impatient, if you show them like, come on, this is like part 2 of 7 parts, let's go, then there's no point. This is even more important when you're dealing with kids. If your kids want to tell you a story, even if you're the one that told them the story, you just told them a week ago, you just remembered now, or you told them earlier today, they want to tell you now, Shulchan Shabbat. You have to empower them. You have to tell them, wow, amazing, the best story ever. Act as if you've never heard it before, because that will encourage them to continue learning. And that will also help you continue growing in your Avodat Hashem. But if you're one of these people that tells everybody, yeah, I know. And guess what? You're going to be very easy to hate. People are going to hate you very often because no one can tell you anything, no one can teach you anything, no one can talk to you about anything, and it's going to be very, very difficult to get along with you. And in fact, you're going to miss out on some great wisdom. One of the worst types of people to deal with when you're a rabbi is someone that cuts you off while you're talking, says, I know. Now, usually when somebody says, I know, if they do it once, no big deal. They do it twice, no big deal. But if everything that you say, they say, I know, usually there's no point for the rabbi to continue helping this person because they're unhelpable. You simply can't help them. They are a person that does not want to learn. They're a person that wants to show everybody they know more. So the first thing we see is that this I know it all type of mentality that is unfortunately a very common trait among society today is the opposite of Da'at Torah. Da'at Torah tells us that there's a time and a place where you have to say, I don't know. And that's in fact the best thing you can do, to show ignorance. On the other hand, we have to look further. Gemara, Masechet Kiddushin, page 30a. And the Gemara here first starts off with a question. It always starts with a question which we develop on. The ultimate goal is to show how much wisdom and knowledge the sages had of the Torah to the point where they literally knew the number of letters and where each letter in the Torah was, and why they commanded us, the Torah commands us, to know it better than anything else. But before we get to that point, the question is asked by Rav Safra, in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, what is implied by what's written in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7, V'shinantam levanecha, and you shall teach them thoroughly to your children. This is, by the way, for anyone that's familiar with it, it's because it's in the Shema Yisrael, you say it every day. What is the meaning, V'shinantam bam? What is this, V'shinanta levanecha, that you teach them thoroughly to your children? So first, the Gemara says, this is where a person needs to divide his studying to cover all parts of the Torah. He has to spend a certain part of his life learning the written Torah, then the Gemara, the Mishnah. But then the Gemara goes into how much, to what extent the sages went as far as knowledge of the Torah. It says, because of this teaching, of how much we have to spend our lives learning Torah, the sages were called, the earlier sages were called Sofrim, which means those who count. Why were they called Sofrim? And remember, this is 2,000 years ago, well before computers or calculators. Because these Chachamim counted all of the letters of a Torah to such an extent that they used to say that the letter Vav in the word Gachon, this is in the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 42, where it talks about the creeping creatures that are on their belly, and you may not eat them, it's an abomination, and so on. In one of those creatures, the Gachon, the word Gachon, the Vav in the letter is big. It's unusually bigger than the rest of the letters. And the sages said, you know why the Vav here is big? Is because this Vav represents halfway point to the letters of the entire Torah scroll. And the word darosh, darosh, also in Leviticus chapter 10, verse 16, represent halfway point of the Torah's words, not the letters, but the words. And in the verse that starts with the word vidgalach, this is in a Leviticus 13:33. This represents the halfway point of the Torah of the verses. Meaning that the Chachamim, and then it tells you the halfway point of Tehillim, of the book of Psalms. But the point is that well before, literally millennia before calculators and computers and artificial intelligence and even AI Rabbi, the sages knew a whole lot more than AI Rabbi or the computers could ever know, even the supercomputers. Literally, they knew the Torah left and right. They knew every single part about it to the extent where they knew the number of letters, where each letter was. This is like somebody knowing where each hair on their head is. That's how well they knew the Torah. Then the Gemara in Kiddushin, anyone that wants to look into it further, says some interesting facts, numerical facts. Talks about how many verses are in the Torah, how many letters, how many verses are in Tehillim, and so on. It's a very interesting section for those that like numbers. 5,888 is the number of verses in the Torah scroll, whereas in the book of Psalms, there are 8 more verses. Whereas in the book of Chronicles, there are 8 less verses. So you see, everything is connected. Now why? Why do they know Torah to such an extent? Not only knowing what it says, not only knowing what it means, but knowing it so well that they knew the letters, the verses. Why this letter is bigger or smaller. This is because the rabbis taught in the Berachos. What is the meaning, V'shinanta levanecha, that you shall teach them thoroughly? The meaning is, Shiu divrei Torah mechudadim bepicha, to convey that the words of Torah should be sharply honed in your mouth. Sheim yish'al lecha adam davar, that if there is a man who asks you something concerning some point in the Torah, Al tegamgem v'tomar lo. Don't stammer or stutter before answering him. Ela emor lo miyad. Rather, you will be able to answer him immediately. Meaning that the Torah is going to be so sharp in your mind, in your heart, on your tongue, that somebody asks you a question about Torah, you have an answer. This verse, that page, this number. You go through, you know the Mishnah, you know the Gemara, you know the Chumash, you know the Tanakh, you know everything. You know where everything is. It's like a blueprint in front of you at all times. Like the Gemara says about Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes in Masechet Megillah, that he was the only one that when he would write a Sefer Torah, he wouldn't look at another Sefer Torah while doing it. The halacha is when you write a Sefer Torah as a scribe, you have to copy it from another Sefer Torah so there's no mistakes. Rabbi Meir was an exception to the rule. How could he be an exception to the rule? They said Rabbi Meir was to such a high level spiritually that he had a Sefer Torah image that he can see at all times, better than what you can see in a book in front of him at all times. What that means, I don't know. I'm not at that level. In BeEzrat HaShem, I will one day. Perhaps I'll merit to even have that for a second. But imagine someone that has a Torah in such a way that he literally has some type of illustration in his, that he can actually see. Like it better than what you can see a Sefer Torah. So now, the Gemara says that these Chachamim are telling us what seems like the opposite of what they said earlier. Earlier they said, know when to say I don't know. Here they say, you have to know the Torah so good that if somebody asks you a question, you don't stutter before you answer them. You know exactly where it is. In fact, they even give you a something to such an extent that you should know it to the extent where, just like you know that your sister is forbidden to you, that's how much you know the Torah. As it says in the Torah, Emor lachokma achotiat. Book of Proverbs, chapter 7, verse 3. Shlomo Melech says, say to wisdom, you're my sister. What does it mean, say to wisdom, you're my sister? Just like I know that my sister is forbidden to me, the Torah is clear to me. You, the Torah, are as clear to me as the prohibition of incest is. So here we see that there is what seems to be a machloket, a debate, contradiction. No contradiction. Why no contradiction? Because as we've said many times, we don't learn Torah from one place. We learn Torah, any particular issue, you learn it from different places, take all the pieces of the puzzle, and then you have a full picture. If a person looks at the Gemara Masechet Brachot or Masechet Derech Eretz, he'll have one opinion. Say, I don't know. If he looks at Masechet Kiddushin, he'll say, you have to know everything and go spit it out right there. Tell everybody, you know everything. So comes the Baalei Tosfot. The Tosfot comes and comments on Masechet Derech Eretz, on Masechet Kiddushin. He says, we see that this seems to be a contradiction in Masechet Derech Eretz, where it says to say I don't know. But what does it really mean? To say I don't know. Says the Tosfot, what the Gemara, what the sages are trying to teach you is, say you don't know when the conversation is regarding meaningless talk. When somebody asks you, who won the elections? What do you think about this politician? What do you think about the news? What do you think about the media? What do you think about the neighborhood? What do you think about the real estate prices? About things like this, get yourself accustomed to say, nah, I don't know. Why? Save yourself the time. You're never going to get that time back. You're never going to get that time back. This person is trying to waste your time with meaningless talk. The one common denominator about people that never get a response from me are people that send me a message that just says hello or says hi. Why? I know that's bait. That's bait for just simply a conversation about nothing. You have a question, send the question. Don't send me a hi or hello. Now, here, the Tosfot is telling us, when people want to chit-chat with you, say, I don't know. Be honest with you, I don't know. No, but the elections, didn't Donald Duck won, Donald Trump, Donald somebody, didn't he win? Don't you know? I don't know. Do you think he's going to be good for the Jews? I don't know. BeEzrat HaShem, he's going to be good. You think the market's going to continue going higher? I don't know. Well, aren't you investing in the market? I don't know. I don't know anything. Why? Save yourself the time. You're never going to get that time back. Stop wasting your time with meaningless chatter. What do you think about this podcaster? What do you think about this show? What do you think about the grass? What do you think about the weather? Which route of traffic did you take from point A to point B? Meaningless talk. Save your time. Even more so says the Tosfot. Also say, I don't know. Even when it comes to Torah matters. If you know that by you answering, it's going to elevate your ego. Where they're asking you a question, and you already knew this question 25 years ago. They're asking you a question, and you know it so well that you want to show off how well you know it. Say, I don't know. Why? It's better that you say, I don't know, than present the Torah in such a horrendous matter of ego and arrogance, because people are not going to be attracted to Torah with somebody like you. So if you're going to be one of those people that likes to show you know everything, it's better you don't teach Torah. This is why many times when people ask me if I think that they should teach Torah, because they like to learn, they're Balei Tshuva, and they say, I want to do what you do, Rabbi. I said, great, it's a nice compliment. People want to do what I do. But which part of what I do you like to do? Or do you want to do? Well, I want to debate people. Right there and then, I know that this person should not teach Torah for a while. Why? Because he doesn't want to teach Torah to help people. He wants to know information so he could show people he's better than them. That means it's not about the Torah. It's about the platform. For such a person, say, I don't know. I don't know anything. Go learn, go grow. You have a long way to go. No, but I need to know, and I want to know. I want to answer these Christians. I want to answer these idol worshippers. I want to talk like you. No. I promise you, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. Why? It'll bring you a lot of problems. If that's the way you want to do it, and that's what you want to do, it's not going to help you in life. In fact, it's not going to help anybody. So Tosfot says, if somebody comes to you and wants to talk about nonsense, say, I don't know. And if somebody comes to you with Torah matters, and you know that you are an egotistical person, you know that you're an arrogant person that likes to say, I know everything, then also say, I don't know. On the other hand, if you have worked on yourself, and you're not going to insult the people with their minimal knowledge in comparison to yours, and they have a question, then certainly you should tell them what you know like you know it. What are some examples of this? One of the Talmidim of Rav Gershon Edelstein told the story himself to Rav Ephraim, my own dear Rav Ephraim. And they're talking about the Gadol, the Gaon, Rav Edelstein. He's spoken much, he's written much, he's built much. This is one of the giants in the past generation. And he says, nearly all of the questions I've ever asked Rav Edelstein started off with the rabbi saying, I don't know. Even though shortly thereafter he wrote a whole tshuva about it, he wrote a whole sefer about it, he gave a whole speech about it, initially, I don't know. Why? Practicing what the sages said, to say I don't know. This is also important for a teacher, to not only always say I know about everything, because sometimes you need to present yourself almost in a same world as the students are. Certainly there are times you have to show them that you are much higher than they are in order for them to respect you and listen to you. But there are times where you need to speak to them on evil grounds, even grounds. Why? Because if they think you're so far away from them, they're not going to communicate with you. So the Talmid of Rav Edelstein says every question almost started with I don't know. Another example of this is an enormous story about Rav Kanievsky. People know Rav Kanievsky from the Bua Bua, the Bracha V'Atzlacha, how much he saved his words in his last years, literally to even turn Bracha V'Atzlacha, which means blessings and success, into an acronym. That's how much he wanted to save speech, how much he wanted to save time. Because he knew all too well from finishing and completing the Shas Bavli, Shas Yerushalmi, and many other Sfarim every single year for decades. What the Gemara in Masechet Chagiga says, Umagid Adam Masicho, a verse from the prophet Amos, chapter 4, verse 13, where the sages teach that even a simple conversation between a man and his wife is going to be shown to him during his judgment day. It's going to tell you every single word. So why waste the words? Why waste the words? As Shlomo HaMelech says, Nafshi yatsa bedabro, that my life came out through the words, where a person doesn't realize that they have only a certain amount of words that HaShem assigned to them during this lifetime. So Rav Kanievsky, people were asking questions all day, and they were used to getting answers. Not only answers, sources, exactly where it is, why it is. But one time, one of the people came to him and asked the Rav a question. And said, there's a question about this particular issue. And all of a sudden, the Rav is hesitant and almost like stuttering a little bit. He goes, some people have asked that before. Well, does the Rav remember what one of the answers was to this question? He says, I believe they had some answers about it. I don't know. Now, this obviously is unusual for Rav Kanievsky. The entire Torah. I don't know, some people asked. It's an unusual response from Rav Kanievsky. So this student was clever, realized there's something to it, so he went and looked into Rav Kanievsky's books, the books he wrote. And he realized that the Rav already wrote an extensive tshuva about this topic, maybe 25 years before this guy even knew there's a question. But Rav Kanievsky was practicing the midah of the anava, the humility. Instead of telling the guy, of course, this question, I already know it, I already wrote about it 25 years before you even knew it was a question. He figured, if this guy really wants the answer, he'll look and he'll find. He'll find that I wrote about it. If he doesn't look, that means he doesn't really care about it. So why should I get my ego boosted? Because I already know. So what we see from here, Rabotai, when it comes to baseless talk, when it comes to meaningless talk, Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhenk says, use any means possible to avoid the conversation. And as Rav Ephraim says, Lo chaval lazman, isn't it a shame to waste time? Now, the Gemara in Masechet Yoma, page 19b, will give us the next point of our journey, of what the value of words are. We need some inspiration. And there's no better inspiration than fear. At least at the start. If you tell somebody, listen, you should love God because he's good to you, that may make the person do a mitzvah, but it's not going to stop him from making a sin. If you tell a person, don't do a sin because then God will burn you in Gehenom forever, typically a normal person will stop making that sin. As I said, normal person. Some people need a little bit of practice to become normal. So the sages, many times throughout the Gemara, throughout the Zohar, throughout all of the Sfarim, speak in a very, very sharp language, very threatening. I like it. Motivates us, inspires us, it reminds us where we stand. The sages talk about V'dibartam bam. Same thing, same place, in Shema Yisrael, where we're told that we should speak of them. What is this speak of them? Speak of them, the Torah is referring to, speak of the words of Torah. Speak the words of Torah. That's what the Torah is referring to. But why does it say, speak of them, rather than just say, speak the words of Torah? To teach you that you have permission to speak them, the words of Torah, but you don't have permission to speak other matters, aside from what you need to live. Rava says, one who engages in trivial conversation transgresses a positive commandment. For as it says in the Torah, and you shall speak of them, which implies speak of them, but not of other matters. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, a person who speaks trivial conversation, meaningless conversation, transgresses a negative commandment also. Because it also says in the Torah, in the Tanakh, Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 8, all the wearing words a man may not speak. Meaning that when you speak about mundane talk, things that are meaningless, you're spending a lot of effort, a lot of energy, but you don't actually have any positive results to ever expect out of it. You're wasting your energy that should be used for Torah. Such a waste is forbidden. So of course, a person that's just starting out in the world of Torah and is not even remotely close to ever being a Torah scholar, to this is foreign to them. And that's why we say Chassidut is something you grow into over time. It's not something you just adopt in 1 second. And it's certainly not just based on clothing. There's a lot more to it than just wearing a certain type of clothes. But if a person understands that at the very least, they have to be more careful with how they use their words, not to lie, not to cheat, not to curse. As the Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, somebody who curses can lose blessings that were decreed upon them for 70 years. Meaning if it was decreed on a person to get blessings for another 70 years worth of blessings, one curse can lose all of those blessings. Why? Because you used a holy vessel that HaShem gave you and you profaned it. So when a person understands not to speak nonsense, not to speak to just anybody, not to use dirty language, not to be a flatterer, a gossiper, lashon hara, insulting people, all types of things like this, that's easy for everyone to understand. Now, if you are already above that, and you can become more careful with your speech, start off with eliminating all mundane talk as much as humanly possible. But there are times that it's not possible. And that's what Rabbi Elimelech is talking about. He knows we live in the world. He says, train yourself to follow the sages that tell you, teach your tongue to say, I don't know. But when people who are careless in this come and speak to you, and they want to talk to you, listen, I really need to talk to somebody. Well, what do you talk about? Listen, I'm really stressed out. Well, what happened? Is everything okay? Your wife's okay? Yeah, she's fine. Your kids are okay, they're healthy, everything. Yeah, they're fine. What are you stressed about? Oh, the economy, the economy. The national debt is so high right now. And also I'm worried. Russia is crazy right now. They want to start a third world war. And I'm really concerned about the weapons and whether we could afford to go into another war. And you know what happened with the medicine and Corona was really killing people. And what? Leave me alone. There's literally already maggots coming out of my brain because you're killing it. Leave me alone. That's what you want to tell this person. But you can't. Why? This person may be your father. This person may be your mother. You can't tell him, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you. You have to sit there and say, yeah, BeEzrat HaShem. Find a way. Find a way to get out of that conversation without slighting their honor even a little bit. Even a little bit. Or perhaps they're your student. Or there's somebody that doesn't have anybody else. Literally, they don't have anybody else. And they're coming to confide in you, and sometimes you have to do it a little bit because it's chesed for them to simply just listen to them. Train yourself, because there are going to be some people who are careless in this, that come to speak to you about frivolous matters, and you should use any means possible to avoid the conversation. But if you cannot avoid the conversation, you should offer the briefest answers possible, no more than absolutely necessary. Meaning just because there is a permission to be there and talk to them and listen to them doesn't mean you go waste your whole day on it or start wasting hours doing it or doing it on a regular basis. Meaning there's a time and a place for everything, and a person has to be clever to know how to utilize their time. But of course, in order for us to value our time, when a person is Jewish and knows that his Torah is priceless, hearing it sounds good. Knowing it is much better. So for that, I'll tell you a couple of stories. Rav Ephraim heard the story from his dear father, Rav Chaim Kachlon, Shichyeh, this Shabbat. And Rav Chaim says, he spoke to the man, spoke to the person behind it. And he says, years ago, maybe 30 years ago, there was an Avrech that tragedy came upon him and his house burned down, his apartment burned down. Everything destroyed. And he was actually neighbors with Rav Ovadia Yosef. Now this Avrech came to Rav Ovadia after he got the worst news, aside from the burning house, which is that to fix it, it's going to cost 200,000 shekels. And this is Avrech. What is he making? A few hundred shekels a month. What is he making? 200,000 shekels, you might as well tell him 200 million. He's just as far from that as he is from the 200,000. So he came to Rav Ovadia. And he told Rav Ovadia the story. And Rav Ovadia told him, listen, I'll write you a letter. And you can take this letter and go try collect the money. And Avrech says, please, Kvod Harav, what am I going to get from people? 10,000, 15,000 I'm going to get from them. I need 200,000. Where am I going to get such money? Plus, it's going to be such a waste of time, effort. So Ovadia says, okay, let me think about it. Let's pray now, and let me think about it. They went and prayed in the Rav Ovadia's shul, and after the prayer, a rich Jew was visiting and came to Rav Ovadia and asked Rav Ovadia if he would please honor them by coming to the Brit Milah of the firstborn grandson that this rich man has. They're having it in a very fancy place, and they want the honor to have the Rav be as the Sandak. Rav Ovadia was a Sandak on many, many Brits, but in his later years, he said no more being a Sandak anywhere else other than his own shul in order not to waste time traveling, going back and forth. Anyone that wants Rav Ovadia to be a Sandak, bring the baby to his shul, Shachrit. They do the prayer, finish, 2 minutes literally, they're finished with the Brit Milah. But this rich man did not want that. He wanted Rav Ovadia to come to the place. And everybody says, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. Too much time, it's going to take an hour of my time. I can't, it's bitul Torah. Wasting time. And the man begged him, said, please, Rabbi, please, I'll do anything. Anything the Rabbi says, I'll do. I promise my son. This is the first grandson the family has. I promise my son that I'm going to have Rav Ovadia come. Be the sandak for this baby. And everybody says, anything? Okay. Go help that Jew. You see that Avrech over there sitting? Go help him. You help him, I'll come. Of course, the rich man runs over to this Avrech that he never saw or heard before. He says, sure, listen, Rav Ovadia sent me here to help you. What do you need? Whatever you need, I'm here. He says, no, listen, I'm okay. No, what do you need? What do you need? Come on, tell me, I need something. He says, I need 200,000 shekels. You got it, no problem. Here, takes out a checkbook on the spot, writes 200,000 shekels, as if it's writing $2. Gives it to him in his hand. Runs back to Rav Ovadia. He says, wait, hold on a second. What is this for? No, it's for the rabbi to come, be the sandak and the brit milah. Immediately the Avrech runs back after the guy, goes in front of Rav Ovadia. Goes, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And he gives back the guy the check. He goes, why not? He goes, you think that I will take upon myself to waste an hour of Rav Ovadia's Torah time? Absolutely not. No way. Let the house be burned and we'll just live in a burnt house rather than waste an hour of Rav Ovadia's time. When Rav Ovadia heard this Avrech's respect for his time, for his Torah, immediately he got up and he told this Avrech, listen to me. Go and sell your house as it is. Sell your house without changing anything. Take that money from the house. There's a place called Bet Shemesh that the state is trying to build. There's almost nothing there. Go and buy 2 houses over there. One big house to live in and one small house. The small house you turn it into a little synagogue. You go do that, I promise you're going to succeed. For the merit of how much you valued my hour of Torah, that you gave me an hour of Torah, you're going to see success. The Avrech listened to this Chacham's advice, listened to the Gdol Ador's advice without second-guessing anything. Today, even if you tell people the halacha on something, they second-guess you. But maybe there's a different opinion. Immediately, he took the Chacham's advice to practice, sold his house, burned as it is, sold it, got some money, but the houses in Bet Shemesh at the time were so cheap, there was virtually nobody there, that you could buy things for pennies. He was able to buy 2 houses with that money. Got a big house for himself, got a small house as a big knesset, but now there's a problem. What's the problem? There's no minyan. And he's there doing whatever he can. Came to Rav Ovadia for a blessing. He goes, I promise you're going to succeed. Don't worry. You value Torah, you're going to succeed. And this Avrech is in his shul one day in Bet Shemesh. And a person comes in, a businessman comes in. He said, listen, we are looking for somebody to be the head of all of the institutions we have that we're building here. Yeshiva Gdola, Yeshiva Ktana, synagogue, seminary for girls, everything. And I want you to be the head since I see you're the only one that has come here and is trying. I want you to be the head. What do you say? The Avrech says, I'd be happy to, but I don't have any money. I'm sorry. He goes, no, don't worry about it. You don't need any money. The state already gave us land as part of this whole thing that they're trying to push for people to come here and build. And for the building, I already have a donor. All you got to say is yes. And of course he said yes, and the blessings came upon him. And until this day, his institutions are some of the biggest in Bet Shemesh. And of course, Bet Shemesh has prospered tremendously over the last 20 or so years. Baruch HaShem. V'ken yirbu. But we see here, Rabotai Karim, what this man got just for valuing 1 hour of Torah. 1 hour of Torah. When a person understands the value of Torah in the next world, the story you just heard means nothing in comparison to it. Because as much glory and glamour and profit that a person can get in this world, it's literally worthless in comparison to what a person gets for that single hour in the next world. So why waste the time? Why waste an hour of your life talking about mundane nonsense that cannot help you nor the other person? But unfortunately, some people are addicted to this. So much so that they actually study for the conversations. They read the news. They read the news. They watch the news. They listen to the news so they could have something new to say to the people they waste their life with. Literally, it's like drinking poison and then expecting to live. The way a person needs to look at these types of conversations where people come to you and ask you to talk about nothing, and what Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhenk is trying to tell us, and so when somebody is coming to you and trying to talk to you about nothing, you have to think about it as if they're about to take a part of your life that you're never going to get back. A half hour, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however you give them. And if you give it to them an hour, certainly they're going to come back tomorrow for another hour. And the next day for another hour. And perhaps they're going to come on a regular basis. And literally this person is going to steal an hour from your life. Now, people don't value their time as much as they value their body. So imagine this. If somebody came to you and says, listen, you have 2 ears. Can I have one? Huh? What do you mean? One, you have 2 ears. See, you have two. You don't need two. Let me just take one. How about that? I'll just take the earlobe. How about that? Okay, fine. You don't want that? Fine. How about your nose? Can I take your nose? Okay, fine. You only have one nose. Give me the cheeks. Maybe I'll take your cheeks. Listen, crazy guy, get out of here. I want my body as it is. How come you want your body as it is, but your time you don't? When a person does not value their time as much as they value their body, they could easily lose both without realizing it. The Megadim, which is a super commentary on the Shulchan Aruch by Rabbi Yosef Teomim, lived in the 1700s. He was an extraordinary Chacham that hid himself from society in a very clever manner for years before he unveiled his wisdom and became one of Gdolei Israel. But in one of his letters to another Chacham, he told him, listen, at this time of your life, you should do what I did and hide yourself. Anytime people come to you and ask you Torah questions, pretend like you don't understand what they're saying. Pretend like you don't even know what the question is. Pretend like you're confused. That way, they won't come back to you over and over again. There are plenty of other places and other Chachamim they can go to. Let them leave you alone for now, because this will give you more time to learn and more time to better yourself and more time to write the books, because if you start now answering everybody's questions, you're never going to have time to learn. You're never going to have time to write your books. You're never going to have time to develop yourself. So hide yourself for as long as you can. This is not just what the Megadim did. This is something that many Chachamim did, even after they became Gdolei Israel. Rabbi Elyashiv, alav shalom, is famously known that he generally would not go to events. Many of Chachamim would not go to events. And if they went literally for minutes. I remember when I went to Eretz Yisrael, there was a couple of events that we were invited to, Rabbi Ephraim and I. But the way we went to events, the way Rabbi Ephraim goes to events, and I learned from him of how to do it, is very simple. First, you generally try to get away with not going. But some people really care that you come. So there's a shiur, a picture. Everything has a shiur, everything has a measure. And there's a measure of how long you need to be there in order for the host to be happy. How much is that measure? Enough measure for them to take a picture with you in it. So literally we would go to a place, we say hello, sometimes sit down, maximum 3 to 4, 5 minutes. There's a picture usually taken. Thank you very much, Chazak u'Baruch. And you leave. And we did this for at least a half a dozen events that we were invited to, that we could not go to. And this is the way it is. Many of Chachmei Israel, this is what they do. They go, they say hello, somebody takes a picture, they pay the respects, and they leave. There's no meal, there's no nothing. Even sometimes they'll have enough time within those 5 minutes to even dance with the Chatan for 2 minutes. He's happy now? Okay, now it's time to go. Rabbi Yashiv alav shalom, anytime he couldn't get away with not going, he would go, he would sit at the table, but he would make sure to put a hat on the chair that's next to him. And one time they asked Rabbi Yashiv, why do you put a hat on the chair next to you? He says, because I'm putting one extra layer of distance for anyone that will have the chutzpah to come and bother me while I'm learning Torah. They won't come and sit next to me. They'll see that I'm busy or that they can't sit there because there's a hat. What are they going to take my hat and lift it from the chair? That takes an extra level of chutzpah to do that. Let them let me be so I could learn Torah even at the event, wherever I am, in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, on the way, before I lay down, before I go to sleep. At all times the Chachamim are learning Torah. Why waste time? Why waste time, Rabotai? Why waste time? Because what happens when you waste time? What happens when your mind is empty of Torah? Aside from what the Rambam says that immorality comes to people that have a mind that's empty of Torah. But if a person lives a life without having Torah in their life, all of the mundane talk about politics, about business, about sports, about fashion, about everything else in the world, you literally can sum up in a matter of maybe a couple of conversations and there's no more to talk about without getting new information. And a couple of stories will give you an understanding. The hostages that HaShem were taken hostage by the monsters of Hamas on October 7th, reported themselves saying that one of the most difficult things that they experienced while being hostages was the boredom, because they weren't allowed to do anything, and they just wanted the time to pass. So what do? They literally, when they would get a bowl of rice, finally eat, they would, to pass the time, they would eat 1 grain of rice at a time. 1 grain of rice at a time just to pass the time. I mean, some of these poor people were there for 100, 150 days. And they didn't have any Torah knowledge. They didn't have even a verse of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that you could recite in your mind and not only increase your merits, but you could delve into it and think of many other things from it. They didn't have a Mishnah from Masechet Avot, Torah Tzivalnu Moshe Morasha, Kilat Yaakov, what that means. How does the Torah transmit from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way to us? Moshe gave it to Yeshua, Yeshua gave it to the Skenim gave it to the Nevi'im gave it to Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. They didn't have anything. They didn't have no knowledge of Torah, and therefore whatever mundane topics they studied, whether it be in school or in society or the news and everything, that all ran out within a matter of a day or two. And literally, for the vast majority of time, they had nothing to talk about. This is also most apparent with people age. As the Gemara itself says that when Chachamim age, they get older, they get sharper. Their bodies may give out, but their minds become sharper. A Chacham that studied Torah his whole life is much, much more sharp when he's 80 years old than when he was 20. On the other hand, people that don't learn Torah, as they age, they become more dull because their mind has not been utilized to the best ability throughout its life, and it becomes worse and worse. In fact, the worst thing that old people suffer is boredom. Rav Shalom Shvadron, alav shalom, one of the most profound Chachamim and speakers that we had in the most recent generation, said that one time when he came to the Bet Midrash, he told them, I just learned something while making shlom bayit. So what did the Chacham make? What did he see? What did he do? He says, as I'm walking towards the Bet Midrash, I see that there is a old couple, maybe mid-70s, 80 years old, arguing at the bus stop. 38, 37, 38, 37, 38. You don't know what you're talking about. You're always pessimistic. You don't know how to count. You're forgetful. 37, you always exaggerate. You don't know what you're talking about. You always see things. 37, 38, 37, 38, back and forth. So immediately I say, what's going on here? I went over there and I say, Rabotai, can I help you with something? Oh, Rabbi, great that you're here. Baruch HaShem, maybe you can help us with this big problem that we have. Okay, what's the problem? He says, Rabbi, we're here. We don't have much to do, so we sit here, and we count how many buses pass. Now, my dear husband over here, he counted 37. And my dear wife over here, the husband says, she counted 38. But of course, she counted 38 because she always exaggerates. He only counted 37 because he's pessimistic and forgetful. He doesn't remember even anything of what he ate yesterday. So we want you, Rabbi, to tell us who's right, 37 or 38. Rav Shvalom Zbadron, in his wisdom of Torah, says to them, you're both right. Huh? How can we both be right? Listen, you counted 37, he counted 38. That's because there's a double bus. That's a bus that's connected to another bus. You counted it as 1, and she counted it as 2. Oh, Chacham, wow, perfect, amazing, yes, you're absolutely right. May Hashem create more like you. Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So Rav Shalosh Vadron says to us, yes, on one hand it's great, we make shlom bayit, but on the other hand, look at what happens to a person if he does not learn Torah. In his later years, he's not going to have anything else to talk about other than counting buses. This, Rabotai Karim, is why we say and emphasize every single week, doing tshuva and learning Torah is not a gift you're giving anybody but yourself. Because all of the other information you're consuming, all of the other things that you're doing, every single one of them would lose its value shortly after you attained it. But the Torah that you attained, the Torah that you acquire only increases value over time. And that's why, on another end, when Rav Ephraim was young and he went to visit his uncle, his dear uncle that I've met several times at Tzaddik, Rav Moshe Atiyah. And he went to visit him for Shabbat. And he saw that after they finished praying the Arvit for Shabbat, there was one old man that stayed at the synagogue, got a Gemara, and sat down. And Rav Atiyah told young Rav Ephraim, and he told me, you see that man? He's not going to go home until he completes 7 or 8 dapim of the Gemara. Because even though Gemara itself says that you shouldn't delay doing Kiddush after completing prayer on Friday, here he made an agreement with his wife. Since he's older and she's older, there's no kids or grandkids at their house. There's no reason to hurry up having the dinner at a specific time. And since he learns 7 dapim of Gemara every single day to complete the Shas once a year, and doing it in the morning or the afternoon on Friday is very difficult because it needs to help to prepare the house. So he does it before he comes home. So sometimes they'll have the Kiddush at 9 p.m., sometimes at 10 p.m., sometimes at 9:30. Depends on how difficult those 7 or 8 dapim that he does on that Friday night, because he's not just learning on Friday night. He's learning the whole week, but he has to complete his learning that Friday night. We see from here, this is a person that not only values his time, is very particular about how he uses it, but also as a person that has not lost his zeal, his purpose, and his excitement for life, because he still has Torah. He still has Torah. He doesn't have to count buses. He doesn't have to count grains of rice. He's continuing to develop his mind in his old age. And this, Rabotai Karim, is why when a person learns Torah and dedicates themselves to it, they'll know that the value is priceless. But then they'll also start to understand why the value of wasting your time on baseless conversations is also priceless, but on the negative end. So let's try to save our words only for purposeful things. Make sure to encourage others, like your kids or other people that want to say Divrei Torah, that we give them the time of day, we give them the opportunity and not discourage them. Know when to say I don't know when to say I have to go. And most importantly, know how to utilize our time. Thank you very much for learning with me. May HaShem bless each and every single one of you to have success in your learning Torah and to utilize your time in this world to maximize all the good that you do. Anyone that wants to donate and support the organization, support our marketing of the new film, Oregon News, or the AI Rabbi, can certainly donate at the website, BeEzrat.org. Some people have really taken it to heart that the opportunity to donate stock and Bitcoin or all types of other cryptocurrency, now you can do that officially on the website, BeEzrat.org. I believe we're the only one that I know of, at least, that can accept it as an organization. So that's certainly good for tax purposes. But most importantly, Rabotai Karim, when you donate to BeEzrat Hashem, you know that you're donating to the right place because you see the track record, you see you see what's happening. You see the films, you see the posters, you see the books, you see the USBs, you see all the things that Baruch Hashem are happening, the poor people being fed. And this is why the people that have donated significantly to our organization over the years have received extraordinary miracles. Anytime somebody asks me, what can I do to get a big miracle? Now you have the answer because we've seen how many miracles were reported over the last few months of people that have donated. So anyone that wants to can donate at BeEzratHashem.org, BeEzrathashem.org. If you want to subscribe to the new AI Rabbi app to ask all your questions and get immediate answers, regardless of what the question is, so long as it's relevant to Torah or ideology of Torah, you could go to airabbi.org. And if you want to get some free books and some of these Asher Yatzar posted and distributed in your community, go to kiruvstore.org. All of it's free. All of it, BeEzrat Hashem, will be sent out to you. B'cha b'atzlacha, and BeEzrat Hashem will learn again later this week. Kol Tuv.
I tried to warn them. They didn't want to listen.
One of the things that I've been speaking against over the last several years is cash advance, lending money with high interest.
Some of those rates legally are as high as 1,900% a year.
People are not searching for the truth. What are they searching for? Quick way out of my problems.
One of the things that the Talmud teaches us, simply how to behave. Social media is discussed extensively in the Torah, in the oral Torah, in the written Torah, in Halacha. God wanted to give you a chance to follow the Torah. You decided to go against. You desecrated His name. The amount of punishment and suffering you're going to get is literally going to be endless.
Every single second, you stay friends with your old Christian friends, with your old missionary friends, with your old atheist friends, with your old friends that are anti-Torah, is a life risk. You have to get rid of a lot of the stuff that triggers you. If you want to progress, that means you have to abandon the past.
By being modest in behavior, in clothing, makes the person a vessel that is able to accept a certain amount of holiness in the world.
Pornography is no less addictive than the hardest drugs in the world.
Experts say there's another pandemic. Children exposed to pornography on the devices we give them.
Gemara says after you make the same sin twice, Yetzirah tells you it's allowed.
Here we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not just a fairy tale that sometimes people would like for him to be. The majority choose to be evil. Before the Mashiach arrives. Today they look like they're a millionaire. Today they look like they're living large. Look around the corner and they're gone.
I tried to warn them, but they didn't want to listen.